Yes, ma'am.
This is my last lecture for you. So this will be going for the exam, right? So last lecture we will be looking into the joints of the upper limb, except the two joints which you already studied. The one is shoulder and elbow. So elbow I have taken, right? And shoulder is taken by someone else. So we finish the shoulder and elbow. So we look into the rest of the joints in the upper limbs. What joints are left now? So you have the joints between the radius and ulnar, the radial-ulnar joints. Okay, and then you have joints between the forearm bones and the carpal bones. That is the wrist joint, and then joints between the carpal bones, radial-ulnar, wrist or radiocarpal, wrist or radiocarpal. Then you have intercarpal. Some of the joints are called midcarpal, intercarpal, midcarpal. So that's the abbreviations. Radial-ulnar, wrist or radiocarpal, IC meaning intercarpal joints. And then you have midcarpal joints. You know that carpal bones are in 2 rows. Proximal row 4 bones, distal row 4 bones. The joint between the proximal row of carpal bones and the distal row of carpal bones is called the midcarpal joint. And then we have carpo-metacarpal joint, CMC. What is that? Carpo-metacarpal joint. Joints between the metacarpals of the 5, okay, and then the carpal bones, distal row of carpal bones. And then metacarpophalangeal. Metacarpophalangeal between the proximal phalanges and the metacarpal bones, okay? And then interphalangeal joints. So these are the joints we are looking into, out of which we have the radial-ulnar, the wrist, okay, and then carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb. So these 3 joints are very important joints. So we'll look into these joints one by one. The first one, okay, we go to the wrist. So first we can study the radial-ulnar and then go on to the wrist. Okay, no problem. Wrist joint. So this the wrist joints are also called as the radiocarpal joint. Radiocarpal joints. First beginning, any joints in the body, they are explained under certain headings. Okay, you are also supposed to explain the joints under those headings. First you have to look into the introductory remarks, okay, where the joint and all. So then what type of joint is this? Okay, the variety of the joint, and then second is about the articulating surfaces, okay, and then talk about the what is that? The capsule, the ligaments and all, okay, and then we are talking about the movements and if possible even blood and nerve supply, okay. Usually blood supply will be anastomosis around the joint by different arteries, and the nerve supply, as I already said you, what are all the muscles acting on that joint, the nerves which are supplying all those muscles will also supply the joint. That's what I was talking about the Newton's law, innervation of the joint. So what is the innervation of the joints? All the muscles which are doing movement at the joint, okay, which are innervated by some nerves, right? So same nerves which are innervating those muscles which are having the movements on that joint will also supply the joint on which they are acting. Clear? So that is about the nerve supply and then the blood supply. So how you have to explain? First you have to explain about the type of the joint, variety of the joint, then the articulating surfaces, then about the capsule, ligaments, and then the movements and even the muscles doing those movements. Am I clear? Then blood supply and nerve supply and some clinical aspects if are there, or the applied anatomy. So according to this, first let's look into the variety of joint. So as I said, it is ellipsoid variety of synovial joint. Which type of joint is this? Ellipsoid variety of synovial joint allowing the movement in 2 axes. Okay. So what are the movements of the wrist joint? You have flexion, extension, adduction, abduction. So 2 axis movements, right?
Yeah.
So that is the ellipsoid type of synovial joint is the wrist joint. Okay. So you should remember very importantly that which type of joint is that. Okay. The next heading, as I said, articular surfaces.
What
Yes.
do you mean by ellipsoid? 2 axis?
Yeah.
Ellipsoid, you mean in 12?
This is the basic synovial joint classification. Synovial joints classification according to the shape, according to the movement, according to the axis in which movement, uniaxial, biaxial, ball and socket, saddle, corduloid. Types of synovial joints. The basic one class, you had it. Okay. So ellipsoid variety of synovial joint. Now the articulating surfaces, as I already explained, the other name for a wrist joint is radiocarpal joints. That means what? It is a joint between the radius and the first row of carpal bones, radiocarpal. So very important here, the ulna will not take part in the wrist joint. Very important. What is that? Ulna will not take part in the formation of the wrist joint. So what is the proximal bone which is taking in the wrist joint? It is only the radius. It is only the radius. So there is some ligaments, okay, or you can say a disc which separates ulna from the wrist joint. So this is called the articular disc. What is this? A very important ligament, a triangular ligament, okay, which is between the radius and ulna, which connects the radius and ulna. We'll look into that when you go to the inferior radioulnar joint. Okay, this ligament separates ulna from the wrist joint. Am I right?
Yeah.
So now the proximal articular surface is formed by the inferior surface of the lower end of the radius and the inferior surface of the articulating disc. And the distal articulating surface is formed by three carpal bones: the scaphoid, the lunate, and then the triquetral. Did you follow?
Yes.
So what are the articulating surfaces? The radius, the articulating disc, and then scaphoid, lunate, and triquetral. So these are the articulating surfaces which are involved in the formation of the wrist joint. Involved in the formation of the wrist joint. So now we go to the, what is the next heading? The capsule, and then the ligaments. So this is the picture, okay, where they have cut open the wrist joint to show you, they cut the capsule to expose the articulating surface. You can see it here. So this is about the radius, and then this is the articular disc, okay, and these are the carpal bones, so scaphoid, lunate, and then triquetral. Clear? These are the articulating surfaces covered by articular cartilage, that is the synovial joint. So this capsule, the wrist joint capsule, is, as you all know, in many joints they are attached at the articular margins. At the articular margins, both to the proximal bones as well as the distal bones in the joint. They are attached. So if you look at the articulating surfaces, so they are smooth. The margins, you have the attachment of the wrist joint capsule. Wrist joint capsule. That is what is mentioned. The fibrous layer of the joint capsule surrounds the joint and to the distal ends of the radius and ulna, proximal to row of carpal bones, where on the articular margins. I hope you understood. So this is the articulating surface, okay, radius. So this is what is the articular margin. So there you have the articulation of the joint capsule. Similarly, the scaphoid and lunate. See here, this is the articular surface, smooth. Okay, over that you have the margin. So there you have the attachment of the articular capsule. What is that? Joint capsule. And then about the ligaments. So you have the anterior ligaments and then the posterior ligaments between the two articular bones, that is the radius, ulna, and then the first row of carpal bones. Anterior ligaments, posterior ligaments, and very importantly, the capsule is thickened both on the lateral and medial side. So forming, just like as I was telling you here, the collateral ligaments. So here also you have radial collateral ligament on the thumb side and ulnar collateral ligament on the little finger side. Clear? Two important ligaments of the wrist joint. What are they? Radial collateral and ulnar collateral ligaments. Other than that, you have anterior ligaments and then posterior ligaments. Just show you the picture, you will understand. You see here. So these are all the ligaments here, many ligaments, the anterior ligaments, and similarly on the posterior side, the posterior ligaments. So now look into this ulnar collateral ligament. See there? This is the ulnar collateral ligament. Similarly, you have the radial collateral ligament. So these are the two important ligaments which are What is that? Supporting the wrist joint. Okay. Other than that, you have anterior ligaments, posterior ligaments, and then the joint capsule. So this is about the joint capsule and then the ligaments.
Can you repeat the capsule? Capsule.
Capsule, a fibrous capsule. All the synovial joints are covered by fibrous capsule. So when you are talking about the capsule, you should know about the attachment of the capsule. Where it is attached on the proximal side and where it is attached on the distal side. So as I said, they are attached to the articular margins, both on the proximal bones as well as the distal bones. So there are some differences that you should concentrate on. Otherwise, always in all the synovial joints, the capsule is attached over to the articular margin, except like in the shoulder joint. The shoulder joint, everywhere they are attached to the margins of your anatomic, or you can say anatomical neck. Only on the inferior side it goes to the surgical neck. That's why the dislocations of the shoulder are very common, inferior dislocations. Do you understand? Just recollect your, refresh your what is that, memory about the shoulder joint. So everywhere it is attached to the articular margin, except on the inferior side, which goes to the surgical neck. Everywhere it is attached to the anatomical neck, that is, which forms the articular margin. So just where is the anatomical neck of the humerus? So this is the anatomical neck, right? This is the articular surface. The margin, articular margin only we call it as anatomical neck. So everywhere it is attached to the anatomical neck. Only on the inferior side it is not attached to the anatomical neck, it goes to the surgical neck. It is lax. Inferiorly the joint capsule is lax. That's why the dislocations from the scapula, usually it goes for inferior dislocation. Inferior dislocations of the shoulder joint are common, very common. So why? Because inferiorly the capsule is lax. It is attached, instead of the anatomical neck, it is attached to the surgical neck. So it is very loose there on the inferior side. That's why there is chances of head of the humerus getting down from this glenoid cavity of the scapula, right? Yeah. So that is about the capsule and then the ligaments. So next, look into the movements. As already explained, what are the, as it's the ellipsoid joint, you have the movements in two axes. What is that? Flexion, extension, adduction, abduction. Adduction is deviation of the hand towards little finger side, and then abduction is towards the thumb side. Okay. So if you look at this, so look into these two movements. Observe carefully my hand. This is ulnar deviation. It's also called as ulnar deviation or the adduction. Radial deviation, also called as the abduction of the wrist. Okay. So which is more?
Ulnar.
Ulnar deviation is more. Why? Can you explain?
Because attachment of the wrist. That's just attached to the wrist. Yeah, it is not shared in the attachment of the wrist.
The scapula ligament. Maybe the scapula.
Because of the disc.
The scapula.
Articular disc.
So I was explaining you when look at this. So now you can say, look at these proximal bones. This is the thumb side, this is the ulnar side.
Yeah.
Why? See, you can see the projection of this radial styloid process more down compared to the ulnar styloid process. Ulnar head is small, and even styloid process also small, whereas the radial styloid process is projecting more down, and it is more bigger inferior end of the radius. So that's why it prevents the further radial deviation, whereas ulnar deviation is more. Okay, so the flexion, then extension. Okay, so these are the movements at the wrist joint. So one more point here, very important point you should understand. So the adduction is movement is taking place at the wrist joint, whereas the abduction. So when it is restricted by the styloid process, slight radial deviation takes place at the mid-carpal joint along with the wrist. So the movement of the abduction or the radial deviation takes place both at the wrist and the mid-carpal joint. What is that mid-carpal joint? So I said you have two rows of carpal bones. This is the proximal row. This is the distal row. Between the proximal row and the distal row, this joint. That is the mid-carpal joint. There is slight gliding movement of the at the mid-carpal joint during Abduction. Very good. So this is about the movement at the wrist. So remember this point, okay? So whereas the adduction, flexion and extension, they will be taking place at the wrist joint, okay? So that is about the movement at the wrist joint. This is about, see, this is the mid-carpal joint. This is the proximal row and this is the distal row. Between them, this is what is the mid-carpal joint, okay? So these are the movements. So this is the ulnar radial deviation and then the ulnar deviation. And then flexion and extension.
Along with wrist joint, mid-carpal joint.
Yeah. The abduction.
Yeah.
So now muscles. So what muscles you?
What's the function of the mid-carpal joint?
What is that?
Movement or function?
Abduction.
I don't know.
Mid-carpal joint.
During abduction, there is slight gliding movement. I will come to that mid-carpal joint later. I will explain all the joints, okay? So as they are a plain type of synovial joint, only allows slight gliding movement. This is gliding. So just they glide so that they will, you can say, help in the movement of the other joint, mainly this wrist joint, especially during abduction. So next, the muscles producing movements. So what do you expect? You have muscles called as flexor carpi radialis, okay, and then flexor carpi ulnaris, they do flexion along with other muscles which go for the fingers like flexor digitorum superficialis and profundus. And similarly on the extension movement, extensor carpi ulnaris, extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor digitorum, they all do extension. And then adduction or ulnar deviation. Which muscles are there here? Flexor carpi ulnaris, extensor carpi ulnaris. They do adduction or ulnar deviation. Whereas abduction, the muscles which are going for mainly the thumb, as they are crossing the thumb and then do the like abductor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis longus. They do muscle. That is what is that abduction. Okay. So this is about the muscles producing the action at the wrist joint. Mainly carpi ulnaris. Remember these muscles. Carpi ulnaris, radialis longus and brevis. Only brevis in the extensor side. Okay. So they are the muscles which are responsible for flexion, extension, abduction and adduction. Clear? So that's what I have used the abbreviations here. So don't confuse. What is this FCR? Flexor carpi radialis. ABPL means abductor pollicis longus. So extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis. So I hope you will follow it.
Yes.
Okay. Extensor carpi ulnaris. So this again, this is a picture explaining the. If you remember this picture, you can write all the actions of the all the movements at the wrist joint and even muscles responsible for this movement. You can see the movement as well as the muscles responsible for those movements. Good diagram to explain the movements and the muscles responsible for. So now a few applied aspects. So as I already told you about this when I was explaining about the radius. Do you remember?
The head of the radius.
Yeah. No, don't.
Yes.
Lower end of the radius. So I said Colles fracture. Colles fracture. So what is that? Commonest fracture. Commonest fracture
in the radius.
Old age peoples because of the osteoporosis. What is it? Colles fracture. So that happens because of the malunion. You have usually it goes for deformity. The deformity is called as the Dinner-Folk deformity. And even you have the Smith's fracture when both the bones are fractured. Okay. Both the bones, the radius and ulna. So now next go to the first let's this intercarpal joints. Okay.
Could you repeat how it's caused?
Old age even it can occur in any age, but commonest fracture I am telling about. It is the commonest fracture next to the neck femur. This is the second most commonest fracture. First most commonest fracture is the Colles fracture. The second most common fracture is the fracture neck femur in old age peoples because of the osteoporosis. What is that? Because of the osteoporosis. You just go to bathroom and just slip in the bathroom, and to balance himself he will put his hand and then his lower end goes for fracture. Okay, that is the Colles fracture. And you have as that a lot of muscles here. So immobilizing the wrist joint becomes difficult. During, if you want to put the plaster or the cast, so then immobilizing the wrist joint becomes difficult because of many muscles, and then the closeness of the fracture site to the joint. So again it becomes difficult to immobilize the fracture end. So usually they go for slight movement and then go for malunion and causing rise to causing deformity. So what that deformity is, looks like a dinner fork. That's why we call it dinner fork deformity.
Doctor, Smith's fracture both radius
Both
and
the
ulna,
bones. Yeah, radius and ulna.
and Colles.
Only radius, solar and radius. Don't worry about those then, because again you are going to learn them in your orthopedics. Okay. So now next joint is the intercarpal joints. Intercarpal, that means joint between the carpal bones. Joint between scaphoid and lunate, lunate and triquetral, triquetral and pisiform, like that. So individual carpal bones, they also articulate with each other. They are the intercarpal joint. And one more joint is there, midcarpal. That is between first row and then second row. Midcarpal, intercarpal. Are you following?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not a little bright picture. You can see it here. So this is the first row of carpal bones, right?
Yeah.
And this is the second row of carpal bones. Now what I am talking about is intercarpal. See this joint between scaphoid and lunate.
Yeah.
This joint between lunate and triquetral. This joint between triquetral and pisiform.
Yeah.
So between this and this, this and this, this and this. Okay?
Yeah.
So these joints. So they are the intercarpal joints. So now this red line, can you see this?
Yeah.
This is the midcarpal. Clear? Midcarpal joint. So intercarpal and then midcarpal joints. And now you will look into, these are the carpal bones and these are the metacarpal bones. Carpo, metacarpal. Carpo, metacarpal. Carpo, metacarpal. Carpo, metacarpal. And even see here, the base of these metacarpal bones also there is union.
Yeah.
Okay? So they are called as intermetacarpal. Intermetacarpal joints. Between the bases of the metacarpal bones. This is carpo-metacarpal and intermetacarpal. Clear?
Yes.
So now I will tell you one point here. So all these joints, what are they? Intercarpal, midcarpal, carpo-metacarpal for the lateral medial four fingers. And then intermetacarpal. I repeat it again. Intercarpal, midcarpal, carpo-metacarpal for these four fingers except the thumb, and even the intermetacarpal. So they all joints are covered by a common capsule. A common capsule, a single capsule covers all these joints. All these joints except for the thumb. Except for the carpo-metacarpal joint. First metacarpal, that is the carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb. This joint is very important because of the importance of the thumb and for the skillful movements of the human beings. Okay, so this joint enjoys more movement compared to other fingers, right? So this carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb is a saddle variety of synovial joint. With what kind of joint? Saddle variety of synovial joint. Whereas all other joint, what I said till now, they are all plain type of synovial joint. Did you follow? Intercarpal, midcarpal, carpo-metacarpal, intermetacarpal. They are all plain type of synovial joint. That means very less movement, except slight gliding movement, especially at the midcarpal joint. Other than that, nowhere you find movement. Okay? So all these joints, what are I said? What joints? Intercarpal, midcarpal, intermetacarpal, carpo-metacarpal. No movements except slight gliding movement, and they are all plain variety of synovial joint except the carpo-metacarpal joint between trapezium and the first metacarpal. So that is the saddle variety of synovial joint, having movement, all the movements like your shoulder joint, like flexion, extension, adduction, abduction, circumduction, apposition. All these movements are possible at the carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb, whereas other, a slight movement.
So plain variety and the second one?
This is saddle variety of synovial. Am I clear? Yeah. So as I said, all these joints, intercarpal, midcarpal, carpo-metacarpal, intermetacarpal, they are all covered by a single capsule. Single capsule, like in the elbow joint, you have both joint between radius and ulna and then the humerus and even the proximal radioulnar joint. Together, only one capsule. One capsule, even though we differentiate like superior radioulnar and the humero-radioulnar joint. So two joints are there in this capsule. Here in the elbow joint capsule, you have two joints. The joint between the humerus and the radius and ulna, that is humero-radioulnar, and then between the radius and ulna, superior radioulnar joint. So they are covered by a common capsule. Okay, so like that, all these joints here, they are covered by a single capsule. Single because of the not much functional importance. Okay, so because only a slight gliding movement is there, so as they are very close to each other, all these joints, so you have a single joint capsule covering all these joints. Okay, and then you have again the ligaments like intercarpal ligaments, carpo-metacarpal ligaments. We just go and explain the same name. So intercarpal ligaments, carpo-metacarpal ligaments, both on the anterior side as well as posterior side, and even intermetacarpal ligaments, intermetacarpal ligaments. So this is about the what joints? Intercarpal, metacarpal, carpo-metacarpal, and intermetacarpal. All these are plain variety of synovial joint. Plain variety of synovial joint.
Doctor,
allowing only the slight gliding movements. Yes.
what about saddle variety of synovial joint?
I will come to that.
Carpo-metacarpal.
Don't be hurried. I will come to that. So next, go to yes. Yeah, I was talking about the carpo-metacarpal joints. Okay. So all the joints, they are all plain variety. The four except for the thumb. Okay. This is a saddle variety. This again one of just showing the same. Yes.
Shalom Alaikum.
Carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb. So as I said, it's a saddle variety of synovial joint. Okay, that's the first you have to explain the variety, then go to the what? How you explain a joint? First variety, then articulating surfaces, then capsule, then
ligaments,
then
movements,
the muscles. Okay, and then the last is applied aspects or clinical. So as I said, first is the saddle variety of synovial joint. So it is between the trapezium and the base of the first metacarpal, bone. So there is a loose joint capsule, separate joint capsule for this thumb. Okay, so again attached to the articular margins. And the ligaments, there are many ligaments like carpo-metacarpal ligament is the first. Okay, so many ligaments both on the ventral side, posterior side, even the lateral and medial side. Okay, there are the small ligaments between the metacarpal bone and then the trapezium. Okay, so then the movements here, the movements are very important. So as it's a saddle variety of synovial joint, so you can see the movements like flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, circumduction, as well as where is the opposition. Flexion, extension, adduction, abduction,
yes.
flexion, extension, adduction, abduction, opposition. Okay, these are all the movements that possible at the first carpo-metacarpal joint. First carpo-metacarpal, or you can name it as carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb. Carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb. Okay. So this is about the carpo-metacarpal joint. So and even I don't want to go into the details of the again the muscles. The same named muscles are there. Flexor pollicis, extensor pollicis, adductor pollicis, abductor pollicis, opponens pollicis. Am I clear? Same name muscles are there. Yeah. Of the thumb, yeah. It is between the trapezium and the base of the first metacarpal. The articular surfaces here it is between trapezium and then the first metacarpal, base of the first metacarpal.
It's the thumb. Auditor?
Yeah.
It's the thumb.
This is about the thumb. So now metacarpophalangeal. This between the metacarpal and the phalanx. The following. These are the metacarpals, right? Okay. Now these are the proximal phalanx, middle phalanx, and distal phalanx. The proximal phalanx and the metacarpal head. This joint is the metacarpophalangeal joint. Metacarpophalangeal joint. So they are all condyloid variety of synovial joint. What variety? Condyloid variety of synovial joint. Condyloid variety of synovial joint, allowing again movement in two axes: flexion, extension, abduction, adduction. And slide even rotation also. You can see rotation. Okay, this rotation. So flexion. I think there is a rod. I can bend this. So this is flexion. This is the movement at the metacarpophalangeal. Flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and then circumflexion. Like this. Okay? The circumflexion. The rotation is little slight because we are not much trained. If you train them, you definitely can do the rotation. You can do especially the index finger. See here? This is rotation, right? Yeah. So flexion, extension. Especially this joint location is for the knuckles. You see this knuckles?
Yeah.
So that is the location of metacarpophalangeal joint. Metacarpophalangeal joint. What type of synovial joint? Condyloid variety of synovial joint. Condyloid variety of synovial joint between the heads of the metacarpal and the base of the proximal phalanx. Proximal phalanx. They are all condyloid variety of synovial joints and movements of flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and slide rotation. Okay. And now the interphalangeal. Interphalangeal. Between the proximal phalanx and middle phalanx and these joints. See? Okay? Clear? So these are the interphalangeal joint. They are the hinge variety of synovial joint. Which variety? Hinge. So allowing only flexion, extension. Flexion, extension. No movement, other movements are possible. Only two movements. Movement in only one axis. Flexion, extension. Am I clear? So I repeat it again now. The wrist joint, okay, it is between the radius and the scaphoid, radius, and then the articular disc on the proximal side, which separates the joint from the ulna. So ulna is out of the wrist joint. Okay. So then the distal articulating surfaces are scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum. Okay. So that is the first row of carpal bones except the pisiform. Okay. So as it is a sesamoid bone which is present in the flexor carpalaris muscle. Okay. That is the ellipsoid variety of synovial joint. Okay. That is the wrist joint. So ulna is out of the joint cavity, and the movements are ligaments. Two important ligaments. There is the ulnar collateral ligament, radial collateral ligament. Other than that, anterior and posterior ligament. Movements are flexion, extension, adduction or ulnar deviation, radial deviation, or the abduction. So abduction along with the wrist joint movement is also taking place at the mid-carpal joint. Okay? So that is about the wrist joint. And then come to the intercarpal, mid-carpal, carpometacarpal, intermetacarpal. All these are except for the thumb. Okay. Carpometacarpal only for the medial forefinger. Okay. So they are all plain variety of synovial joints. Plain variety of synovial joints allowing only a slight gliding movement covered by a single capsule.
What's called this joint?
Yeah.
This joint.
Carpometacarpal.
Oh, no, this here.
This is metacarpophalangeal.
It's like
Between the metacarpal. So what I am talking now about is these joints. Between this, say this is one bone, this is the other bone, carpal bone. Between them is the intercarpal. Okay, between the first row and the second row, this joint is the midcarpal. And now see, between this and this is the metacarpal base. This is carpometacarpal. Okay, and then between the metacarpals, intermetacarpal. So all these, as they are very close to each other, covered by a single capsule. Okay, you do not include the thumb in this. Okay, so this is for the medial forefingers. They are all plain variety of synovial joints covered by a common capsule, and the ligaments are similar, anterior and posterior, intercarpal, carpometacarpal ligaments, okay, or the intraosseous ligaments we say, both anterior side as well as the posterior side. So plain synovial joint, only slight gliding movement, especially at the mid-carpal joint. Okay, then carpometacarpal joint of the first of the thumb, between the trapezium and the base of the first metacarpal bone. It's a saddle variety of synovial joints, okay, having all the movements: flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, circumduction and apposition. Saddle variety of synovial joint. Clear? And then we have the now these joints. Metacarpophalangeal. Metacarpophalangeal. They are the condyloid variety of synovial joint, having movements in two axes: flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, slight rotation. Okay, so that is the condyloid variety of synovial joint. What is that? Metacarpophalangeal. And then interphalangeal. They are the hinge variety of synovial joint, where you have the movement of flexion and flexion, extension, flexion, extension, flexion, extension. Okay.
Excuse me, doctor. So the four joints, intercarpal, carpometacarpal, midcarpal and intermetacarpal, do they have a specific name for all these four?
No, just I said no. Intercarpal means class between all the carpal bones. Midcarpal between first and second. Carpometacarpal.
Yeah.
You can say it is different like carpometacarpal of the second, third, like
Because
that.
when we call them intercarpal bone, intercarpal joint, intercarpal is one of them. So, yeah, right?
Yeah, any one of that. They are all same. They are all same. That is the plain variety of synovial joint. Only slight gliding movement.
Yeah,
You need not be specific about between the joint, between the scaphoid and lunate, lunate and trachea. You need not remember the individual joints between this. Just say intercarpal. Intercarpal means many joints.
Yeah.
The joint between all the 8 carpal bones.
Yeah, okay. So, and the type of variety of
Plain variety.
What about saddle?
Saddle is for the thumb.
So, is it a separate one?
Carpometacarpal. I said no. So whatever I am telling is for the 4 fingers except the thumb.
Yeah.
The thumb, that is the carpometacarpal joint between the trapezium and then the first metacarpal. It is a saddle variety of synovial joint. Whereas other carpal bones and other metacarpals, they are plain. Okay, only this thumb is saddle variety. So next last part is the radio-ulnar joint. Radio-ulnar joint. Yes. You have mainly 2 radio-ulnar joints. You can see it here in this bone.
Superior and inferior.
So one between the radius and ulna in the upper aspect and one between the inferior aspect, and even you have the membrane between them. So some even they consider it as mid-radio-ulnar, middle radio-ulnar, superior, inferior and even the middle. It's a fibrous variety you can say, okay? Because this intraosseous membrane is very important, and the fibers, direction of the fibers, they run downwards like this. So even they allow the rotation of the radius over the ulna during supination and pronation movements, and even They are very helpful in even carrying the weight. Carrying the weight. So because the wrist is only radius is taking part.
Yeah.
So even the weight is transmitted through the ulna by this membrane.
Yeah.
You know. So thus membrane is very helpful in even carrying the weight from the distal part of the hand towards the limb and then to the axial skeleton. Okay. So superior radioulnar joint, as already explained, it is between the head of the radius, which is round, okay, and even on the ulna, upper end of the ulna, you have a notch there. So that is called as the radial notch. The radial notch, very good. Okay. So first, again, the variety. What variety? It's a pivot. You know pivot? Pivot. This is a pivot. You understand pivot? So a round ring will be there in this one vertical, or you can say longitudinal axis. There will be rotation movements. That is, such kind of joints are called as the pivot joints. Like your one joint, same pivot joint, I guess you already studied in the head and neck. Atlas and axis. You have atlas, first cervical vertebra, and then the odontoid process of the axis. So there you have rotation, these movements. So they are taking place at these joints, right? Pivot joint. The pivot joint is, this is the basic you already learnt in your synovial joint class. So the pivot joint is, one ring will be there in this longitudinal bone which rotates. So that is a pivot variety of synovial joint. Pivot variety of synovial joint. What is that joint? You can see here, this is a circle or a ring. In this, the head rotates. Okay? So that is the pivot variety of synovial joint. What is that? Superior radioulnar joint. So you have a notch here, radial notch on the upper end of the ulna, and then the radial head. So now very important is, there is a ligament which holds, just observe my fingers, which holds this head to the ulna like this. You can see it here. So this is what is the radial notch. Radial notch, and this is the ulna. Okay, this is the head of the radius. This is the radial notch on the ulna. Okay, so now anterior lip and the posterior lip of the radial notch will have the attachment of a very important ligament which circles around the head of the radius and then attached to the posterior lip. So this ligament is called as annular ligament. What is that ligament called as? Annular, because it is rotating around the head of the radius. So like this U-shaped ligament which is there attached on the anterior lip and as well as the posterior lip of the radial notch. Okay, that ligament is the annular ligament which holds the head of the radius to the ulna. Okay, and in that ring only the head rotates. So this pronation and then supination movement, they are just rotation movements. Rotation movements in which the head rotates. Okay, so that's why it is a pivot variety of synovial joint. Pivot variety of synovial joint. So very important ligament of this joint is the annular ligament. Annular ligament which holds the head of the radius to the radial notch. Okay. Yes. That's why if you observe this radial head, everywhere it is smooth all around because it is rotating. So even the inner side of this annular ligament is also covered by synovial membrane. Okay. That's why whole of the head, circumference of the head is smooth because all of this is articular. It articulates with the, you can say, the inner side of the annular ligament as well as the radial notch of the ulna. So that is the pivot variety of synovial joint. That is your superior radioulnar joint. And the capsule, as already explained in the elbow joint, it is the same single joint capsule which covers your humero-radioulnar and then the superior radioulnar. So it is within the capsule of the elbow joint. Same capsule which covers both the joints. Joint between the humerus and the radius and ulna and even the radius and ulna. So that is about the superior radioulnar. The movements are pronation, supination. Pronation, supination. All the three joints, superior, middle and inferior, it's the same movement, that is the pronation and supination movement. And the muscles responsible are, what is the muscle which does pronation? Pronator teres and pronator quadratus. What are the muscles which are responsible for supination? Maybe I repeated it 10 to 20 times in the lecture. Still you are doing the same mistake. Which is the chief supinator? Biceps brachii. Don't never. So in the first lecture I told you. So you always do a mistake of telling supinator. Never say supinator first. First is the biceps, and then is the supinator. Clear? The strong supinator is the biceps. And then comes the supinator. Okay. So as I said, the same joint capsule. See here, it is the humerus and the ulna and radius, and even the superior radius, all in a single joint capsule. Okay. So important ligament here is annular ligament. Next, go to the same blood supply as I already explained you. What is that? What is that? Anastomosis around the joint. You have the collateral arteries, then the recurrent arteries. Collateral from the brachial, recurrent from the ulnar, radial and interosseous artery. They are all anastomose and then supply all these joints. And the nerve supply, as I said, see even the musculocutaneous, median and radial, because all the muscles are acting on those joints. Okay. Now distal radioulnar joint. So this is the distal radioulnar. Okay. So here also there is a notch on the ulnar notch on the radius and the ulnar head. Ulnar head. Here also it rotates. Here also it rotates. That is again the same pivot variety of synovial joint. What is that? Pivot type of synovial joint. The thing which keeps these two bones together, I was telling you, the very important ligament, that is the triangular ligament or the articular disc, which is binding the radius and ulna together. So on the medial side it is attached to the styloid process of the ulna. On the lateral side is attached to the clip of your ulnar notch on the radius. Ulnar notch on the radius. It's a very important ligament which keeps these inferior ends of the radius and ulna together. And even this separates ulna from the wrist joint. Very important ligament. That is triangular ligament, or also called as the articular disc. Articular disc. And one important point about the capsule of this joint. You find capsule everywhere, posteriorly, laterally and then medially. Only superior aspect, the capsule is deficient. I will show the picture, you will understand. See here. So, here the capsule is part of it is taken out. So, everywhere it is there, capsule you find. Only on the superior side, there is no capsule. So that what happens? See this? This is the synovial membrane which pops up upwards because there is no capsule. It runs between the radius and ulna. This is the radius and this is the ulna. Superior side there is no capsule. So what happens? The synovial membrane, it forms a bag-like extension superiorly. Bag-like extension superiorly. That is called a sacciform recess. What is that called as? Sacciform recess of the distal radioulnar joint. Why it is there? Because superiorly the capsule is deficient. Capsule of the distal radioulnar joint, because of that the capsule is absent on the superior side, the synovial membrane pops up between the radius and ulna, forming a sacciform recess. No, not that. Because of that there is possibility of radius rolling over the ulna. Here the radius rolls, ulna is fixed. Radius rolls over the ulna because of this recess and even the interosseous membrane. So that's what is explained. So that's why if you observe the joint cavity, it is L-shaped, right? This joint cavity, this is the inferior radioulnar joint. It is L-shaped. See here? Okay, it is L-shaped cavity because of this sacciform recess. Because there is absence of capsule on the superior side. So whatever explained, it is in the text here. Those were saciforms. So as I said, this redundancy in the synovial capsule on the superior side accommodates twisting of the capsule, especially during the rotation of the radius over the ulna in the pronation and supination movement. If the capsule is there or even on the superior side, this would have been difficult. The rotation movement would have been difficult for the supination and pronation movements. If the capsule is there on the superior side, and even if you find that there is absence of the saciform rhesus, then the supination and pronation movement would have been difficult. So to avoid that, there is an absence of the capsule on the superior side, helping to have the saciform rhesus. And the same again, blood supply, the same, whatever the, what is that? Anastomosis around the wrist joint, between the carpal branches of the radial and ulnar arteries. This is the movement. See here, in the pronation and supination movement, ulna is fixed. Ulna is fixed. Ulna will not move. Only the radius moves. See here. So this is the supination, and he is doing the pronation. See here, ulna. What is that? Radius overrides the ulna. Ulna is fixed. See this. So then radius overrides. See here, this movement overrides the ulna. So one more picture how this ligament helps to keeping. So when it is overriding the ulna, there both the ends has to be kept together. In that case, this becomes very important. This is the triangular ligament between the styloid process of the ulna and then the inferior end of the radius. Okay, a triangular ligament. If you see this ligament is a triangular one. This is the base attached to the radius, the apex attached to the styloid process of the ulna. So again, I don't want to explain what is the supination. So what is supination movement? Facing the palm anteriorly. Okay, pronation, dorsum anterior. Pronation, supination. Remember that mnemonic what I said to you. King pronates, beggar supinates. If you remember that, no confusion. And see, this is the interosseous membrane. Interosseous membrane. See the direction of the fibers. Because of that, the length is more. That will allow the rotation of the radius over the ulna. If they are transverse, then rotation would have not been possible. Are you right? Okay, and even when you are holding the weight, this gets twisted like this, following the movement. If the fibers are horizontal, then both bones cannot move, right? If the fibers are horizontal like this, okay, then this movement would have not been possible. Okay, so that will help this direction of the that is the what is that, fibers in the interosseous membrane, both allowing the supination and pronation movements, and even very helpful in carrying the weight, passing on the weight from the forearm bones to the humerus and then to clavicular, the shoulder girdle, and then to the axial girdle. Very important. There is this even they call it as the mid-radioulnar joint, proximal, distal, and mid-radioulnar joint. You can say it as a fibrous variety of joint, Okay, this is all about the. So the muscles, as I already explained you, the pronator teres and pronator quadratus, and biceps and supinator. So now one clinical aspect about this superior radioulnar joint, very importantly, very common in case of kids, especially when you are. So never do that mistake of carrying a child, holding his wrist and then lifting it. Even some parents will be doing like that. Whenever they go to bath, they will swing the child, holding both the hands. So what happens in that case? Suddenly, as I said, because the head is not fully developed in them, kids. Okay. So suddenly the head will come out of this annular ligament.
Yeah.
See here, this is the annular ligament. The head will come out. Okay. So causing what is the condition called as subluxation. Subluxation of the head of the radius from the annular ligament. Okay. So that's about one clinical aspect what I explained. So never lift the child. So lift from the axilla shoulder.
صار من الشيء يعني صار بمشي.
So these are the points to remember for this radioulnar joints. So same that what I said, supination, same points what I explained, facing the palm anteriorly. Okay, then pronation, palm backwards, posteriorly. Okay, muscles responsible for pronation, pronator tibialis and quadratus. Supination is by mainly the biceps and supinator muscle, and even the axis. Don't go for axis because it's a little confusing for you. Or even it's not much necessary for undergraduates. That's all about the today's lecture about the joints, shoulder,